Sorry I'm late tonight. This is Lydia Glider Shelley for the Invisible Hand Show. I wasn't prepared for the show tonight, and Larry should be here to take over shortly. In the meantime, I'd like to thank Mike Shanklin for setting up the Voluntary Virtues Network so that we could do this. And here's Larry.
How about that? I made it.
I'm going to let you take over from here because I'm really in the middle of a bunch of things tonight.
Me and I have to just sit here and talk to nobody for half an hour? Goodness.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully Jason or somebody will show up.
That would be a good thing, yes.
I'm sorry I didn't get an event invitation or anything sent out. It's been a crazy week.
For a lot of people. All over the world. Afraid that the world news makes me very pleased that I am and who I am, where I am, doing what I'm doing. Far too much suffering going on.
You got that right.
At least those people who watch the news can't just sit back and ignore all that suffering. They have the suffering presented to them rather graphically a couple times a week at least. I don't like it when people can blithely go along in life thinking everything is just ducky because they themselves are doing well, getting that other people are not so fortunate.
It's pretty easy to ignore, especially if you don't turn on the TV.
Yeah, I guess even on my computer, I can avoid web pages that make me uncomfortable. By the way, I don't see your image. Are you there?
I am, but I don't want to be seen right now. As I said, I just really was not prepared at all. I actually forgot it was Friday.
Well, that's happened to me too. Of course, I'm getting old enough that I have an excuse. Youngsters.
Well, I can blame it on age, but I don't know if anyone would believe me.
Well, we all forget things, so I wouldn't worry about it. Well, since nobody else has come on, and since I can talk about anything I want, apparently, college football season is getting underway. And since I've spent most of my adult life living in college towns, and since I've spent so long attending college, something like 12 years, it shows you what you can do when you put your mind to it. I thought I would talk about the beginning of college football, what the role that physical object money plays, and how things would be a little different if we were to have non-POM instead. I hope you find college football fascinating, but I'll be surprised if you do. You will find that college football does have a lot to do with money. If I'm not mistaken, a federal court told the university, probably Northwestern University's football players that they could not form a union and strike and all that good stuff because they were student athletes instead of being employees of the university. Little things like this bring it to mind rather forcefully that college sports, especially football and to a considerable degree basketball, have a lot of money involved. That there are people who are making a lot of money from these activities. The people who are most conspicuous, of course, are head coaches. The numbers bantered around for salaries that the schools are paying some of these top coaches is in the millions. And of course, I'm very confident that the money that comes directly from the university or the college to the coach is only a small part of what they're being paid. I would be astonished if the shoe companies and other athletic apparel companies weren't contributing. I would be astonished if the alumni who are fans of the school sports teams weren't contributing. And in fact, there may be others who contribute in a variety of ways to the income which these top coaches have. If that seems outrageous to you, consider that the coaches are really in far more of a free market situation than the vast majority of people who are making large amounts of money. In other words, let us say that we have a college football coach who's coaching a team which wins almost all its games. That coach is held in high regard by the alumni, by the fans who support the team, by the ex-students association, and so on. And they're funneling quite a lot of money to him. But what happens if he starts to lose? Well, there are disgruntled fans, of course, for every coach, no matter how much they win. But a losing coach has real trouble gaining support, so that he will find himself out on his keister before too long, unless he can bring the team back to winning. Therefore, it isn't like the people who are, shall we say, in the energy business, who have monopolies and subsidies and so forth, which they can exploit. The coaches actually have to perform. They have to do something. They have to show they're worth at least some part of that money. And of course, the coaches are being paid millions of dollars because the head coach does seem to have quite a lot to do with whether a team is a consistent winner or a persistent loser. Rare is the coach that can come along accepting a job with a team which has been a consistent loser for generations, turn it around and make it a consistent winner. It does happen, but those coaches are extremely rare. Now, of the people whom the coach employs, we have a number of assistant coaches. And of course, there's a pretty close to free market for assistant coaches as well. The assistant coaches are less value than a head coach in the vast majority of cases. And therefore, they don't get quite that high a pay. But most of the top assistant coaches in the top schools in the country are making incomes easily well up into the six-figure range. In fact, I've heard of a coach who, from the university itself, is making over $700,000 as an assistant. And that's just what the university is paying. There's no telling what the alumni groups are paying, if anything. And other prominent, well-connected, well-heeled alumni are paying. So we know that even assistant coaches are getting paid quite a lot. That brings us to other staff other than the coaches. Many of them will be students, and therefore their pay is miserly. Probably not enough to live on by any means, but then supposedly they're not working full time. And finally, we get to the players, the people who are actually providing the entertainment for which the general community pays such a high price. I'm told that in a football game that was held last night, some of the cheapest tickets were like $70 or $80 for a ticket to see this one game. Now, to me, that sounds outrageous, but when I was establishing my idea of what appropriate prices were, coffee cost a nickel a cup, and it was a bottomless cup, and you could buy gasoline for about 20 cents a gallon. So obviously, I'm not up with the current prices. However, of that vast amount of money which goes flowing into the university, they have to spend a lot of it to support other sports, of course. But they also use a lot of that money to attract more players. In other words, they'll put a lot of money into things like weight rooms where the players can exercise. They'll put them into lounges where the students can, the players, I should say, can relax, kick back, watch TV, or play pool. Into medical facilities so that they can help the players heal up when they get injured participating in their sport. They also, of course, need to support the stadiums. Now, a stadium is a pretty risky proposition for most schools. If you build a big stadium with, shall we say, 50,000 seats, you can bet that if you fill all those seats, the stadium will pay for itself. And you only have to fill them 5 or 6 or 7 times a year. But if nobody shows up, if you sell more tickets than well, you sell a certain number of tickets, say 50, 40,000 tickets, and only 25,000 people show up, it looks bad. That doesn't help with recruiting. That doesn't give people an exciting game day experience. It means that those fans are more likely next time to, if they can, watch the game on TV rather than showing up at the stadium. So it's risky for a school to put money into a stadium. Now, in the pro leagues, the professional team owner can threaten to take the team to some other city. I mean, there are lots of cities on the fringes wishing they could get into the pro league. So by using that threat to take their marbles and go home, the professional teams can coerce the local governments into taxing the public to pay for the construction of arenas and football stadiums. This isn't the case with colleges, however. The college is stuck. They're right there. They're not going anyplace. They can't take their marbles and go. They can't say, well, yes, we've got this wonderful school here in, name your large city, and we've got this wonderful stadium, which should be much more wonderful. And if you don't pay us, we're moving the whole school to some other city. Well, that just doesn't work for a college. So being stuck, there's no strong advocacy for the public in general of the city or the state or whatever be taxed to pay for an enlarged stadium. Therefore, it's much more difficult for the schools to put the money into a big stadium. And therefore, if they're going to put the money into the stadium, they have to have a real confidence that the team is going to play well enough to fill that stadium with fans wanting to see their team win. So this puts an incredible amount of pressure on the coaches to recruit good enough players to win enough games to fill those seats. Brings us to the players once again. Now, players are being paid, in quotes, paid by a scholarship, by room and board, by tuition and fees, by books, and maybe a little bit more, but they're really not being paid much at all. In other words, if the average person had a skilled job which required that much time, effort, and simple hard work and had that much risk of injury in it, they would expect to be paid quite a lot more than these football and basketball players are being paid, given their skill level and their risk of injury. Therefore, it sounds like the colleges are making hordes of money, piles of money, on the labor of these football and basketball players. But that's not the case. Most colleges have to struggle to break even. The people who are making the big money are the TV executives, the networks which show these football games, the vendors who sell things to the public as they come to the game. There are all sorts of people making money on the players and their success or lack of success. Therefore, it makes sense, in all fairness, that the players should get a somewhat larger cut of the pie. They're the ones who seem to be being left out, and they're the ones who are taking the physical bodily risk of being seriously injured. There's a slight risk of being killed too, but we can ignore that. Just a greater risk of being killed in an auto accident than on the field of play. So they're taking all the risk. They're putting in all this tremendous amount of effort, and the vast majority of them will not be able to earn money playing their sport after they finish college, whether they finish in 1 year or 4 or 6 or whatever. Therefore, we can say that other people are profiting from these players. Now, move to how the players are recruited, we find what is probably one of the most disgusting and seamy sides of college sports. There are all sorts of underhanded, unfair, illegal, in some cases, certainly unethical things that are done to recruit players. There are cases of, shall we say, prostitution, in which the top players are offered shall we say, opportunities to meet persons of the opposite sex and under favorable conditions during their recruitment. Players are offered so-called jobs, which give them pretty substantial pay for not showing up to work at all. Outright bribes, money, cash, of course, is offered to some players directly or indirectly. In rare cases, some of the assistant coaches may actually have their hands in the till, handing out money to recruits. This does happen. Why does it happen? Because this is something you can do with money. And if you've got money and you really want your team to win, this is a way, it seems, that you can improve the chances that your team will have good enough players to win. Now then, this is just the money aspect of it. There's also other things, such as, quote, handlers, unquote, or agent type people who say, kid, if you go along with me, if you do what I tell you to, if you go to the school I tell you to, I'll make sure everything works out well for you and your family. Well, this works in a disappointingly high number of cases. It's not what you'd like. It's not what teaches our children, especially our high school age children, to behave responsibly, to be ethical, but it does happen. Now, if we move on to high schools, we can see that the same kind of thing on a smaller scale in most places, on a smaller scale, is going on there too. Jobs are offered to parents of children who have, athletes who have a high probability of success in order to support the local high school football team or a basketball team. So, what would be changed if we went from our current POM situation, our current physical object money, which can be taken from you against your will, which gives you an impression that life is a zero-sum game, when that, of course, is a lie that POM tells us. And it is amoral. Since POM is amoral, it can be used for all these unethical things. What would it be like? What would college sports be like if we had a non-POM, a non-physical object money? A money which could only be earned, which could only be acquired by doing things which had good consequences for other people, not yourself necessarily. If what you do is a good consequence for you, well, that's benefit enough. But if what you do benefits someone else, then you deserve to be rewarded for that. So we've got a non-POM system, let us say. In the non-POM system, nobody has to pay room and board or tuition and fees to go to college. It's free for everybody. People who work in the colleges, the admissions staff, the professors, the janitorial staff, the people who keep the computers running, and so on and so forth, they're all paid for the benefit they provide other people. So there's no need for the student, the player, to pay anybody to attend the college. If they want to attend the college and the college accepts them, then they can attend that college. Okay, now, what about the players when they get on the field? College sports, or the revenue sports, football and basketball, is show business. It is entertainment. It provides the community with good feelings. It gives them, the students, part of the college experience. They get a chance to root for their team, etc., etc. All these things are beneficial. All these things are things which make people's lives better. Therefore, all the people who participate, the players, the coaches, the medical staff, the TV technicians, the people who point the cameras, the people who wash the towels, and so on and so on, all the people who help to construct the stadiums, who distribute, who who give you food and drink in the stadium, and make sure that the bathroom sinks, which get clogged, get unclogged, all the people who participate in providing this entertainment get paid for it. Naturally, since the people come to the game to see their team win and to see those big name players, those are the ones who get most of the pay. Yes, oddly enough, the ones who are doing the most to provide the entertainment get most of the pay. Are coaches important? Of course they're important. Coaches add to the chance that your team will succeed and thereby give you more pleasure and satisfaction? Yes, they do. Do they deserve to get paid? Yes, they do. Now let's go to recruiting. Now, remember, with POM, it's amoral and anybody can give it to anybody else. With non-POM, you can't give anyone else money. So all those bribes, which are so easy and so anonymous in our current POM system, become impossible. You can't do it. But you could buy something. You could buy a luxury item. You could buy, shall we say, a fancy car and offer that to the player who goes to the school of your choice. Yes, you could, but then it would be on record that you had given that person the car. If they're driving around in that car, with your retaining title to it, it's known as your car. That information is public. It is available to anyone. So your activity would be known to everyone. If the league has regulations saying nobody's supposed to give any of these things, then that's fine. But you're caught, and the league can take whatever punitive action they decide against a player and the team he plays for. So, since there are no scholarships given to the players, and the players are going to be paid based on their entertainment value for the general public, there's a really good chance that a really good player is going to make far more money by choosing the right school as far as entertainment is concerned than he would get from anyone trying to bribe him by giving him a new car or something else that would be a luxury item that would be expensive. Because there is so much money involved in college sports. There is now with POM, and there are a lot of people who are involved in college sports as fans. You've even got fantasy college football. Yes, and that could still exist. So the player would think of being offered the new car or being offered an opportunity to vacation at this person's vacation home. He would think of that as peanuts. That's nowhere near what he was already earning in high school, probably. And therefore, when he goes to college and therefore expects to be making much more, it would be an irrelevancy. Just as the players who are drafted by the NBA or the National Football League aren't going to be swayed by a, shall we say, Washington Redskins fan offering them a car if they will sign with the Washington Redskins. I mean, that's trivial. Therefore, most all, not all, but most all of the recruiting inappropriateness that we see now with our current college sports scene would go away. It wouldn't be feasible. It wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't work. And therefore, people wouldn't be trying to do it. Now, let us consider those coaches. If their team plays well, it's going to attract more fans, they'd be more popular, people are going to want to see it more on TV, and therefore they are providing more benefit. If they don't coach very well, if the team loses, if the team looks incompetent on the field, it's not going to have very many fans in comparison, and therefore they're not going to, the head coach and the staff members are not going to be earning as much money. And this is true from the head coach all the way down the organization through the water boys and the janitors. The more benefit the team provides, the more income there is for all of those people, all of them, including the medical staff. Therefore, the coaches are going to want a situation which provides them the best opportunity to win, just as they do now. But they will not be able to, what shall we say, they will not be able to have a contract with the school because the school doesn't have contracts. The school doesn't have any property, okay? The school cannot contract with the head coach. Therefore, how do you tell who the head coach is? Well, the players and the assistant coaches and so forth will have a lot to do with that. They're going to have to settle it somehow. they're going to have to come to some conclusions. Probably the players would be able to elect, if you will, the head coach. But I am in no way saying that is what would have to happen. But there would be some differences. The power structure would be quite different. Because, again, the coaches can't say, I'll jerk your scholarship if you don't do what I tell you, because they can jerk the scholarship. The coach can't say something like, I won't let you play. Well, he can say that all he wants, but that doesn't mean that there's anything that would prohibit the player from playing. You following me here? So the relationship between the coach and the players becomes much more that of a relationship between a master and an apprentice, or a mentor and his acolyte. That is, the coach is not going to be able to rule by the heavy hand, by punishment. He'll have to rule by reason, by enticement, by persuasion. I tell you, it's going to be a whole different way of life. And I think that the players may just discover that it's a whole lot better way of life than what they experience today. Are you still there, Lydia? Oh, Lydia. Well, it looks to me, based on the clock on my computer here, as if the time is just about up. Therefore, I'm going to call it a night, say that I very much hope that you come back next Friday. Because I think that may be my last opportunity to make a presentation.
All righty then. Sorry, I meant to give you a 5-minute warning, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, I've got a little clock here on my computer that tells me what time it is, what date it is.
You were on a roll.
Well, it's something I've been thinking about for a while. Again, next week, I'm afraid we're going to have to use something out of the can. If I can come up with a 30-minute lecture, I'll be happy to provide that. But I will have coaching obligations on Friday night that's coming up, unless, of course, there's heavy rain.
Okay, well, I'll get one or both of those ones you sent me prepared for you to pre-record then.
Very good. I look forward to it.
Have a great week.
Thank you very much. It has been.
Good night, Larry.
Good night.